that made him.
That was all it took.
Oh, I mean, he's a psychopath. And this is after, by the way, I spent months trying to help him. Like he had, I stayed out of the whole side. Like I'm not super involved in like streaming drama. And so I sort of didn't pay attention. And his wife, Ela, and I have mutual friends here in LA. And our mutual friend had reached out and been like, look, they're going through all this stuff. They're being harassed on Reddit. Like, I know you've reported a lot on snark subreddits. Can you help them? I was like, sure. Let me look into it. I reached out to Reddit multiple times, went back and forth with Reddit. Turns out that his community is the one instigating the harassment.
Yeah. The Vanguard will be there, sir. This is the Vanguard, and I did have to bring a little bit of a tea and gossip and gutter to the conversation. And that's, I wanted to ask you about Ethan Klein, a man who has gone so far out of his way to smear you.
Taylor Lorenz, famed Roblox journalist. That's her beat, by the way, if anyone's wondering. It's Roblox. And she's doing really well with that. Yeah. She says, I have a psycho sexual obsession with his song.
Okay, in this most recent episode, he got on the bandwagon, somehow implying that your reporting on dark money was racist, which I just thought was so ridiculous to try and argue.
Ethan jumped in on that?
Oh, yeah. He put out an article.
Very funny because I'm pretty sure Ethan Klein, if you Google Ethan Klein racism,
he said the N-word like 3 weeks ago on his live stream. He's a crazy person. He also retweeted, oh gosh, we gotta get this one up here. He retweeted obsessed.
I didn't understand this video at all.
Me neither, but it just kind of added to the deranged hysteria.
Misogyny. It's just misogyny.
How's Taylor a misogynist?
Virulent misogynist.
And then you have this one over here, which I really wanted to get to, which is that he spent months implying that you were somehow like fond of pedophilia. I can't tell. This is like Ro Khanna talking about signing a petition to get the Epstein files released. And he says, I can't tell if he's talking about Taylor Lorenz or to Taylor Lorenz. Either way, Roblox.
Didn't Ethan defend pedophilia? Wasn't his entire username like pedo something?
Which brings us to this interesting confession from Ethan. I'll open this in a new tab so we can actually see it. My friends, I have a terrible confession to make. Yes, it is true. My 15-year-old browser was identified by using a doxing website, blah, 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 blah. But it basically confirms that he was pedo troll on Reddit.
But you're the pedophile, Taylor, for talking about Roblox.
Well, and also I report on online communities. So I report extensively on communities that young people are involved with. And I report on like young people's civil liberties on the internet and political expression on the internet or whatever. And I think it's so important to give young people a voice online. And what I've noticed from Ethan especially is that he has this belief that's actually quite reactionary and right wing, which is like, I report a lot on trans youth and LGBTQ youth. And I did a big story in the Washington Post last year, actually, about the effects of these horrible anti-LGBTQ laws on trans youth in Oklahoma specifically. And of course, we interview teens for those stories. Now, when I interview teenagers, especially about a sensitive subject like that, I'm not going to go to their parents. A lot of times their parents are the ones that have put them in harm's way. And so it's, he's obsessed with this. He's like, did you get parental consent, whatever. If I talk to a 17-year-old, like, especially if I'm talking to them about something that, I've written a bunch about school shootings as well. Like, you don't always talk to their parents first. Now, sometimes you do, like generally, I always like, I always say like, oh, if you want your mom to be on the phone, they can be, as long as that the child has a good relationship with their parents. But a lot of children don't. And the reason that they're talking to a journalist is because they're seeking accountability and they're seeking a voice and they want somebody to hear them, whether they're a student activist or a child influencer. Like, I've also written a lot on the child influencer industry. Do you think some 13-year-old child influencer that's reaching out to me because they want help and that they're being basically exploited by their parents, that I should call up their parents and be like, hi, Susie says that, you're whatever. No, I'm going to hear their story and report it out. So it's very silly. Now, when kids are under 13, I do generally talk to their parents, or at least like I would never publish anything without sort of trying to speak to parents, because I think at that point they're so young that they don't really even like, I don't even think, you know what I mean? They're so young. But if there's a case of abuse, I'm very careful about that. And Ethan is not. Look at how Ethan speaks about, teenage victims of sexual assault and the disgusting things that he said, or teenage victims of, horrible things like the Boston bombing massacre and the way he sexualizes teenagers and young women's bodies. Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah,
Totally.
and just to follow up a little bit, do you know what was the catalyst for this like weird crusade that Ethan's been
Oh
going? Like he
yeah.
seems like
Yeah.
he's got a weird problem with you, and from an outside looking in, like obviously knows he's got this weird psychosexual fixation on Hassan Piker. Like, is it
That's
because you
it.
said positive things about Hassan once or twice, and now he's just so sick with raging, jealousy that he's got to come after you 24/7? Because obviously the guy seems very mentally unwell. I think his behavior on the microphone and on Instagram stories reveals that pretty clearly. But it is weird that he's decided you of all people are going to be his enemy for some reason.
Well, I'm a woman and he hates women. Like he hates women on the internet. He will always target women. He's targeted Kat Tenbarge as well. It's because Hassan has spoken positively about my work and because I've written about Hassan in a way that's not like a hit piece, and that makes him livid. And what kicked off all of it, like what really started this like open hatred was I had said that I wasn't even subtweeting Hassan. I think I was talking about like Ken Klippenstein, but it was like whether people should be able to report on manifestos. And I agree with Ken that like there's value in reading the full manifestos because I've seen the way that like mainstream media warps these people's manifestos and like warps their message often to like depoliticize it. And I guess Hassan at that point had like read a manifesto on stream. And so he like took that as a defense of Hassan and like that made him.
That was all it took.
Oh, I mean, he's a psychopath. And this is after, by the way, I spent months trying to help him. Like he had I stayed out of the whole side. Like I'm not super involved in like streaming drama. And so I sort of didn't pay attention. And his wife, Ela, and I have mutual friends here in LA. And our mutual friend had reached out and been like, look, they're going through all this stuff. They're being harassed on Reddit. Like, I know you've reported a lot on snark subreddits. Can you help them? I was like, sure. Let me look into it. I reached out to Reddit multiple times, went back and forth with Reddit. Turns out that his community is the one instigating the harassment.
Yeah.
We covered that on the show. We covered that. And Zach, can you share that screen one more time?
Yeah.
That we have of the pedo troll. Because if you scroll down a little bit, it literally says, yes, my account, username, pedo troll, made a few bizarre and edgy attempts at being funny. It was common on Reddit 15 years ago to create a thematically named troll account to post silly things, more than just silly, bro. If you look at this account, it wasn't even clear that it was in jest. It wasn't even clear that it was being ironic or sarcastic. It would literally just post like, shit, I'm a pedophile, weird incestuous stuff, weird like defense of various.
He has some weird sexual, like he makes everything sexual. It's very weird.
It seems like he has some bizarre
also
complex.
He accused you of being like racially insensitive. Jesus,
right? That's one of the worst
for
ones.
some of these.
That's one of the worst. But it's just crazy. And then for him to get so triggered about the way people are talking to him on Reddit when this is out there, it's like, bro, you've been posting unhinged, crazy shit your entire fucking life. As you mentioned, there's tons of clips from the past, including the infamous Boston bomber clip, right, where he's talking about just the most unhinged shit. It's like how are you then going to go and pearl clutch over other people and their contributions, like specifically with the Roblox story? I mean, that's an obvious non-issue. It's an obvious smear. It's not like you're someone who has a history of behaving inappropriately around children. There's never been a single accusation leveled at you in that regard. It's a total fucking smear. I mean, that's defamation if you want to be honest. Not that you would ever get the fucking lawyers involved because you're not crazy.
Oh no, he's crossed the line.
Defamation.
He's crossed the line for defamation many times over. And I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a multimillionaire living in a massive Bel Air mansion in a gated community. Once again, I'm a freelance journalist just trying to like cobble together a living off like Substack and Patreon and my YouTube, which I started literally last year.
Yeah, that's another important thing. I feel like because we all swim, and Gavin and I have at least like some sort of a familiarity with this, because you all swim in the same ecosystem, and like sometimes we'll have a video clip that does like 100K, and it's like, wow, that's a good clip. You guys did a great job. Like you guys and all of these other rich content creators. And it's like, bro, I was a bartender shaking martinis over the summer. Okay. Like I am not rich. Like, yes, we're doing the show full time, like knock on wood right now. It's working out for us and we're having a good run. And we're literally working class people who make our income on YouTube. And we're really grateful and we're really proud of that. Right. But there's a big difference between Hassan Piker's income and my income, right? There's a ginormous difference, like an unfathomable difference. And I feel like there's not a lot of appreciation or understanding of that, right? Like, why don't you just go and behave like this guy who has infinite disposable income? Because I don't have infinite disposable income. I don't have a lawyer on retainer, right? Like, Ethan Klein is litigious because he pays lawyers to be on retainer, and he's like, fuck it, might as well have them be working for me. You know what I mean? That's his mindset. It's very Tony Soprano kind of a behavior. Like, I'm going to create problems with everybody, keep them busy and occupied so that I can stir shit wherever I want to. You know what I mean? And it is a power imbalance. And I feel like we don't have a good enough understanding as an online culture of the power imbalances that exist in independent media when you're not just directly controlled by, you know, your corporate boss. There were so many people I was just, again, I don't want to call out anybody like erroneously, but there were people I was really disappointed in who were not just like Gavin and I, we don't give a fuck. Like, if everybody else on the online left disagrees with us, we're coming out with our fucking position, and that's what it is. You know, get mad, right? And I appreciate that you also have that kind of a tone when you come out to people. A lot of people, they're like looking around for a podcaster that they can get under their wing and always agree. Wow, I can't believe I just happen to agree with this guy all the time. It's like, I don't agree with Gavin all the time, man. Like, we've done a show together. We went to 5th grade together. Like, come on. I know you don't just agree all the time. Like, oh, you conveniently took the weekend off because you didn't want to dissent with Brian Tyler Cohen or David Pakman because you didn't want to hear from your lived up audience. Like, that's fucking crazy. And that's the same audience. That's audience capture, right? Which is the same thing as like being manipulated with soft power in a different sense. And there's no understanding of that either.
And also, I think, like, again, I am very online. I cover online culture. Like, I can sort of just say whatever I think at all times. And I've definitely posted some like stupid shit on Twitter over the years. That everything I've taken also is like taken in the worst faith or whatever. Like, people can be like, you know what? Taylor's fucking crazy on Twitter. Like, I don't agree with her takes on COVID, or I don't agree with her takes on whatever, and still recognize that my track history when it comes to journalism is pretty unimpeachable. Like, I have I work really hard to report on really, really difficult stories that are under enormous scrutiny, and have done so at like really, you know, like I do these places, like I write for a lot of like mainstream big places. And even if you don't like me personally, or you think I'm annoying or whatever, like, that doesn't mean that like you need to take this opportunity now when the story comes out to like side with the worst people on the internet just because you don't like me. And that is that like weird parasocial like internet thing where I feel like people are like, oh, well, I had a beef with her, so I guess I'm going to side with, you know, I'm going to participate in the smear campaign because fuck that lady. And it's like, no, you can just like not weigh in, honestly. Or you can just say like, yeah, I don't really like Taylor, but Wired wouldn't lie, you know?
Yeah. I think people have this idea of like a journalist is supposed to be this cold, like overly objective analyst or whatever. And I honestly think that people don't like that you have a personality, that you have an actual voice, that sometimes, as you says, you are, you know, a little bit like unhinged on Twitter, like the rest of us. Like, you're an actual human being. And that's what makes your work, in my opinion, appealing. But I think some people just can't handle that, right? And they can't stand that, yeah, you might have said something they really disagree with like a year ago. And now they want to look at this article you put out when they should just analyze it on its merits.
And also, everyone has an opinion. It's such a lie that any journalists are neutral. And my opinion has always been that it's better to just be like out there and say what I think and make the points that I want to make. And if people want to disagree with me like that, I've evolved my thinking on many things by like talking about it publicly and being like, what do you guys think? Or you know, whatever, like that's valuable. And I think when you have these people that are like, I'm a neutral journalist, they're not neutral. It's just that you don't know what they believe because they're not putting themselves out there. And I think that that is ultimately not good for our system. Like, I think we need more transparency. We need more transparency on the journalist side, and we need more transparency on the influencer side. Like, I wrote this piece months ago, saying it was titled "Stop Letting Right-Wing Influencers Cosplay as Independent," and it talked about the funding mechanisms on the right, and like, you know, this idea that like I don't report on the right wing, which is also something people have been saying, is just so crazy because like that's like kind of like how I'm known online, is like reporting on the right.
Right.
Oh yeah, when I ran into that guy this morning that fixed my jeans, he was like, "Oh, the lady that, you know, had the beef over libs of TikTok," and I was like, "Yeah, that's the lady." And he was like, "You know, so that is I would say to like a layman, right, who's just covering, you know, when I was like, oh, I'm interviewing Taylor Lorenz, he was like, oh, the lady that is known from libs of TikTok." So it wasn't like you were doing fond reporting of libs of TikTok. It wasn't like you were cuddling up to the right. You guys were literally like at internet war.
Those people hate me. Tim Pool took an entire billboard out to call me a liar. Like, and you'll note, by the way, none of them are praising me. Like, maybe they're like, they might use the article to be like, haha, Democrats, but they fucking hate me. These people know that I report critically on them, and I am working currently on other, like, I read my reporting for Zateo. Like, I report critically on the right constantly.
MAGA haven, Zateo.
Right, exactly.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir.